protesters in Florida and other cities have walked out of their classes, skipped school, marched around protesting for gun laws, and it seems like their voices were heard. Many students who protested used this tragedy as a reason to get out of school. Numerous videos on Facebook, including live videos of protests in action, have shown that the student walkouts were nothing more than a joke to most kids. Many of the students who walked out were just walking around laughing and having fun like it was an extended recess. Those voices were heard in Florida, and something happened at a gun show that they were not expecting. The Florida gun show experienced something completely unexpected after all the protesting future leftist students made their voices heard. The show happened at the Florida State Fairgrounds, and they had almost 7,000 people arrive. It was one of their biggest crowds ever. George Fernandez, the manager, said he hasn't ever seen a crowd like that. It shows that when Americans' rights are threatened to be taken away, that people show up and fight back for them. People realized that many of the students protesting used that as a way to skip class and play around. Meanwhile, record numbers of guests arrived at the Florida gun show over the weekend, and the crowd was reportedly amazing and supportive of American rights, supportive of victims in tragedy, and sending a reminder that good guys with guns are not the problem. Protesters won't ever convince red-blooded Americans to lay down their arms and throw away their two-way rights. Here's the line to get in, which was very long. WTSP reported more on the gun show. Organizers say they had a record number of people attend the event on Saturday, February 24, almost 7,000, and expected more Sunday. The manager for the Florida gun show, George Fernandez, says they've never seen such a big crowd. With the heated debate over gun control staying front and center, Fernandez expressed concerns over proposed gun laws possibly restricting gun owners. Some of the people attending are afraid that future legislation will impact their gun ownership rights, he says. Florida lawmakers, like U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, want stricter laws to fix the so-called gun show loophole, which allows people to buy a gun at one of these events without getting a background check. Not only that, Nelson is also calling for a ban on assault weapons, saying murders were down after they were banned back in 1994. Before that law, they were high, and after that law, when the NRA had the law in 2004, the number of deaths as a result of assault weapons has grown up like a rocket taking off, he says. Fernandez disagrees with both restrictions. About 95% of the vendors at this weekend's show, he says, are required by law to run background checks since they are licensed dealers. However, the other 5% of vendors are private citizens. Several Florida counties, including Pinellas and Hillsborough, have passed ordinances that would require private citizens to run background checks as well. But Fernandez says tightening the loophole still wouldn't have stopped the massacre at Stoneman Douglas. Helping people who suffer from mental health has been included under Governor Rick Scott's action plan to keep kids safe. It doesn't have to be my child. I'd grieve for any child dead in a mass shooting that's senseless. If you want to protect yourself, get yourself a revolver, or how about learning how to fight, says Gonzalez. Florida gun shows will put on another Tampa event in late April and early June. Some people debate the gun show loophole that might allow the wrong person to purchase a gun. Most people agree that loophole should be closed. Many people would like to see mental health checks added as part of a more extensive background check. The gun used in the Marjory Stoneman shooting was purchased legally, which was partially responsible for the failed laws that Florida has. If the background check was more extensive, then they would have seen that Nicolas Cruz suffered from mental health issues and had a long history of having the police called on him. That is two red flags that should appear in a background check to ensure that another bad guy is prevented, or slowed, from getting a gun. None of the laws or background checks will ever prevent criminals from obtaining guns illegally because criminals don't follow laws. The gun laws and background checks are helpful in making it more difficult for a criminal to attain a weapon. The laws set guidelines that most Americans follow. It's the criminals who abuse the system and commit crimes, placing the rights of hard-working and law-abiding Americans at risk. There is no call for confiscation of weapons, but there should be a more extensive background check that includes written tests, psychological exam, and weapon safety and firing tests to ensure proper use. Some may oppose those options, but they are designed to provide the right people with their guns, and to make sure that the bad and irresponsible people do not. The good people will always prevail. This man is protesting. He doesn't realize that the hobbyists are not the people who run around committing gun crimes. This man needs to fight for the right reasons and against the criminals. If a person holds a sign that says mass murder is not a right, then that's something we already know. He needs to tell that to the criminals and make his voice heard about mental health checks. Unfortunately, the mass shooting crimes are completely unrelated to the NRA. The NRA is just a club for legal law-abiding gun owners to be part of. They're not the ones responsible for the crimes. If there was a gun problem with the millions of legal gun owners, then America would know it. It's not fair to place the blame on anyone but the shooter and criminal when crimes happen. Proud sponsor, Destin Charter Fishing from the web powered by ZergNet. Navy SEAL who killed bin Laden tossed off plane. The scandalous ice dancing lift that won gold at the Olympics. The truth about the Obama sisters. Navy SEAL who killed bin Laden gets thrown off plane. The disappointing double life of Tim Tebow. Awkward Olympics wardrobe malfunctions you can't unsee.